All right, so let's take a look at a video that deals with a couple of things. The first question that we're going to be dealing with is a multiple choice question on cost estimation. So the topics that we've been discussing are cost behavior, how do costs react in total and on a per unit basis. Activity analysis, the previous video we looked at a consideration of a more automated process with higher fixed costs versus a more labor-driven process with lower fixed costs but higher variable costs. And then we said, okay, at what point is the automated process financially more viable? And so, sometimes we can take information, whether it's budgeted information or actual information, and we can analyze it to estimate costs. And the question that we have here deals with something called the high-low method. And so before when we talk about the high-low method, it is a way to estimate cost. It is the easiest way, but it's probably not overall the best way. Regression analysis does a far better job of accounting for outliers. But this question deals with the high-low method and when we might use that. So it says, cost estimation using the high-low method is used to accomplish all of the following except. So when we have one of these questions, we need to recognize that, yeah, we're interested for our points getting the answer correct on this question. But in addition to which one of these is not a reason to use the high-low method, we need to recognize that 3 of the answer choices, all the ones that we're not going to pick, are reasons to use a high-low method. Okay? So keep that in mind, because that might help you on another question whenever they're asking you, for the opposite. Okay? So it says, estimate total costs for a hypothetical level of activity. Okay? Use all data available to a firm in separating fixed and variable cost components. Deals with mixed costs. And use limited data to separate fixed and variable cost. Okay, so the high-low method is used to analyze mixed cost and determine which portion of those mixed costs are fixed and which portion of those costs are variable. And in addition to that, we can also say, okay, I can use that information to then project what my total cost would be at a hypothetical, say for example, a future date. Okay? And so we can kind of jump down here to look at question number 24, which is a high-low method question, and we can then come back up here, kind of circle around and say, okay, let's see what we have here. Estimate total cost for a hypothetical level of activity. That's the last thing I said, was that we can use the high-low method to do that. Once we separate the fixed and variable cost components, we can then take those components. Okay, well, this amount's going to happen no matter what, so we're going to plot that just as we would in our formula for total cost, fixed cost, or standalone amount. And then we can say, okay, well, now we know what our variable cost per unit of output is, and we can multiply that by a hypothetical level of activity. So A is absolutely a true statement. B says use all data available to a firm in separating fixed and variable cost components. Well, one of the benefits of the high-low method is that it requires only aggregated or total information. So there's a little bit of a lack of detail. Notice in question 24 that we haven't got to yet, we're not looking at the miles on a daily basis or anything like that, or the operating costs on a daily basis. We're looking at months here. So we're not doing this. So this is going to end up being our answer here. But then we also want to recognize that yes, in fact, the high-low method does deal with mixed costs, specifically separating those into fixed and variable cost components. So C and D, highly, highly related. And then once we do that, we can then estimate total cost for a hypothetical level of activity. We do not do answer choice B. Okay? All right. So now let's look at an example of the high-low method. We've got this Super Speedy Delivery Services, and they've collected data about operating expenditures for its delivery truck fleet for the past 5 months. Okay, and we have those 5 months here, and it says, what is the cost estimate for variable costs per mile for each month? Okay, well, before we can do that, we have to do a little work. We have to do a little bit of analysis. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at activity level, and we're going to select the high point and the low point. Okay? And so we have to go through here and just analyze these, and we say, okay, 85,000 in the month of August is our high point, and then June is our low point. Okay, so I'm going to put a little asterisk here to show what months we're going to use, because then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to look at the costs, and we're going to say high and low. Our high cost is $225,150. And I'm just basically going to set up a little equation here. And I'm going to subtract from this high level cost from August. I'm going to subtract, rather, the June operating costs of $180,000. Okay. And I'm going to divide that by the differences in activity levels, high of 85,000 miles minus the low of 50,000 miles. And I'm going to get, you know what, I better not use that. That actually means something. Let's do an arrow. I'm going to get a simplified equation here. Let's just do this on the calculator. 225,150 minus 180,000 is 45,150. Okay. And then this is 35,000 here. 85 minus that. 50,000 is 35,000. And so now I'm going to divide this 45,150 by this 35,000 here. And I come up with $1.29 variable cost per unit. Or, in this case, let me move something real quick. Let me move this up here. Mile. So we would say that we have a variable cost component of $1.29 per mile. Now, we have to make sure we understand something. We can take this $1.29 and multiply it by 85,000, that's not going to give us 225,150. Similarly, if we go to the low month and take 50,000 and multiply it by 1.29, that's not going to give us 180,000. This 129 is only our variable cost per unit estimate. All right. So how do we figure this out? Well, we're going to take, to get the fixed costs, we're going to say that fixed cost equals total cost minus variable costs. Okay, so we can look at either of these months, and we can look at August if we wanted to, or we could look at June, and we're probably going to look at both just to make sure that we're doing it right. So for the month of June, we would say $180,000. That's our total cost. And we're going to subtract from that 50,000 times 129. We actually had that up on the calculator a moment ago. 50,000 times 1.29, 64.5. So let's start over. $180,000 total cost for June. One more zero. Minus 64,500 is 115.5. So by the way, this is our answer for part 1. And our answer for part 2, let's drop this down, is 115,500. Fixed cost per month. However, let me do one thing here. Let me kind of clean that up. It looks like 7 to me. So 115,500 fixed cost per month. Again, how did we get there? We took 180,000 for June minus 1.29 times the 50,000 miles, which gave us 64.5, and that gave us $115,500 fixed cost per month. Now, to be sure that we did it correctly, what we need to do is we need to take this for the high month, 85,000 times the variable cost per unit of 1.29, and we're going to come up with, let's see, we're going to do August right here. All right, so 225,150 minus 85,000 times 1.29. Okay, so let's just do that. 225,150, that's our total cost for the month of August, minus, oh heck, I got it off of the deal there. Let's see here. Let's start over. Should have written that down. 85,000 times 1.29. So this is 109,650. Okay. So total cost of 225,150 minus variable costs of 109,650 equals 105,500 fixed cost. And notice both of our amounts match. Okay, and so we can say then, if we wanted to speculate how much it would cost us, this is not part of the question, but what we could do is we could say, okay, what if we wanted to speculate that the month of September is going to be even busier, and we think that we're going to drive 90,000 miles, well, we would just take 90,000 times 1.29, and then we would add to that this same figure here, 115,500. Okay, and so, you know, if we look at this question right up here, we said estimate total cost for a hypothetical level of activity. We could say that we estimate that September at 90,000 miles is going to incur cost of $231,600. Is that what they're going to be? Probably not. But we use the $115,500 fixed cost, and then we use the $1.29 variable cost. If this shifts to $1.32 or goes $1.27, then our numbers are going to be off, right? And fixed costs, although they don't change often, they can change a little bit. So this is probably not going to be our exact figure. And even if everything stayed the same, what are the odds that we're going to drive exactly 90,000 miles in the next month? So again, we are dealing with the concept of cost estimation using the high-low method, which is not perfect. All right, that's it for this video.